This happened on November 11th, 2024. I was catching the 11:42 train from Banthera Junction, a route I've taken more times than I can count. That night felt different. The platform was almost empty, just a few figures in the dark, and the air smelled like rust and rain. I boarded coach C3, my usual spot, window seat, fourth row. A couple of older passengers were already settled in, scattered far apart. No one beside me, or so I thought. Just before the doors closed, she stepped in. A woman, maybe early 30s, white coat, shoulder bag, damp hair clinging to her forehead. She looked like she'd stepped out of a faded memory. She walked down the aisle, glanced around, then sat beside me. Seat 17, she nodded slightly, polite but distant, turned her face to the window. She held a small, faded paperback in both hands. We sat in silence for a while. I didn't want to break it, but then I smiled and said, "Good book?" She tilted the cover toward me. It was blank, just creases and age. "It's not really about the story anymore," she said. "I just like the feel of it, like holding a memory." I grinned. "So, you've basically memorized it." She gave me a quick side glance, smirking. "Page 42 has a typo. I still get mad about it." I laughed. "That's real commitment." She shrugged, playful. "What can I say? Some stories don't let go." For a while, we just listened to the train hum beneath us. Then I asked, "So, do you always travel this late?" She smiled gently. "Only when I miss the world at night." "The world at night?" I repeated. She nodded. "You see things more clearly when no one's looking. The lights, the silence, people stop pretending." I like that. Too much, maybe. "You sound like a writer," I said. She looked out the window and whispered, "No, just someone who used to be." She didn't say much after that, but her presence stayed warm. It felt like something had started, something quiet, beautiful. And then the train entered a tunnel. When we came out, she was gone. No movement, no door sound, no footsteps, just an empty seat and a scarf. It was folded neatly, still faintly damp, smelled like old roses. Inside, tucked into the folds, a train ticket, train number 94,721, November 11th, 2023. Exactly 1 year ago. Seat 17, written in faded pen on the back. Lila Rajan. I got off the train in a daze, still holding the scarf, still hearing her voice in my head. At 12:07 a.m., I texted my friend. He was at the station that night. He came to drop off his cousin and watch my train leave. I typed, "Did you see the woman sitting next to me?" He replied almost immediately, "What woman? You were sitting alone." 2 days later, I visited a cemetery just outside Banthara. I found her, Lila Rajan, 1989 to 2023, killed in a train accident, right outside Banthara, on November 11th, 1 year ago. And at the base of her gravestone, the same white scarf, folded the exact same way, soaked by the morning dew. Some stories don't let go, and some passengers never get off. Based on a true account shared online in 2024, Seat 17 is no longer assigned on that train. I needed a break, a few days away from work, from people, from everything. While scrolling through places to stay, I came across a small guest house tucked in a hill town I'd never heard of. It wasn't listed on major apps, just a name, a phone number, and one slightly faded photo. I figured, why not? I called. A woman answered, her voice calm. maybe a little tired. I asked if they had a room available for a few nights. She said, "Yes, room 6 is open. You can check in anytime tomorrow." I asked if I needed to book online or pay in advance. She replied, "No need. We'll handle everything when you arrive." That was it. Straightforward. No fuss. In a world full of apps and confirmation codes, it actually felt kinda nice. Old school, simple. The drive was long, but peaceful. Sharp turns, thick pines, and a gray sky that looked like it hadn't moved in hours. The guest house sat quietly at the edge of a wooded ridge, a wooden structure with faded red paint and ivy curling up the walls. No glowing signs, no reception bell. Just the same woman from the phone waiting behind the front desk. With a worn guest book and a brass room key, she handed it to me. "Room 6, she said with a smile. "Last door at the end." No eerie vibe, no strange looks, just small town stillness. The room itself was plain, but clean. A low bed, a nightstand with a chipped lamp, a narrow window facing the forest. There was no Wi-Fi, no TV, just quiet, which honestly was what I came for. As the clock crept toward 1:33 a.m., something woke me, a sound. It started faintly, 3 soft knocks, evenly spaced, not loud, just intentional. They didn't come from my door, they came from across the hall. I stayed frozen in bed, listening. Then came another sound, dragging, like something heavy being pulled along the wooden floor. Slow, unsteady. It stopped outside my door. Silence stretched. And then, breathing, rough, deep, too close. I sat up, heart hammering. But I told myself it could have been someone pacing, a strange plumbing sound. Old buildings make noises, right? Still, something felt wrong, like it knew I was awake. Eventually, it stopped. I didn't check the hallway. I just waited for morning. Sunlight made everything feel less dramatic. At breakfast, I made a little small talk and casually asked the woman at the desk, "Is anyone else staying here?" She smiled and shook her head. "Just you right now." I nodded, then hesitated. "What about the room across from mine? Room 3? Her expression didn't change. "There's no room 3, she said casually. "We skipped that number. Superstition, I think." I didn't argue. I even laughed a little. But that hallway definitely had a door across from mine. I saw it. I heard something there. I went back up after breakfast to double check. Rooms 1, 2, a blank section of wall, then 4, 5, and mine, room 6. No sign of a room 3, no seam where a door should be, just old plaster. I stood there for a while, knocked once, gently, nothing. I wasn't planning to stay another night, but part of me wanted to prove it was nothing, that I had imagined it. I left the lamp on, sat in bed reading, listening. At 1:30 a.m., the air changed again. The room felt heavier, still. Then came the knock, 3 times, but not from the hallway this time, from the window. I stared at it. My room was on the 3rd floor. Another knock. I pulled the curtain slowly. Nothing. Just fog, and the tops of trees swaying. No ledge, no figure. But when I turned back, the door was open, just a few inches, and on the floor, leading from the threshold to the far corner of the room, wet footprints, bare, human, stopping in the corner. The air was damp, thick with something earthy, like river mud or rotting wood. I didn't sleep, didn't close my eyes, just waited for daylight. I left without breakfast, didn't check out, just dropped the key on the desk and walked out. As I drove off, I glanced back at the guest house one last time. There were 2 windows on the 3rd floor, mine and one more. Curtains drawn, no movement. But just as I turned back to the road, I thought I saw someone in the other window, standing still, head tilted, watching. I don't tell this story often. It sounds too vague, too made up, but it never left me. One night, a cab driver named Ralph picked up a young woman near a small shopping center on Archer Avenue. She looked around 20, soft blonde hair, pale skin, in a white dress like she had just come from a wedding or a dance. She didn't say much, just smiled politely and stared quietly out the window. After a few minutes, she spoke. Her voice was calm, almost wistful. "I always wanted to dance until dawn, to live a life full of moments like tonight." Ralph didn't know what to say, so he just kept driving. Something about her didn't feel wrong, but didn't feel quite right either. When they reached the gates of Resurrection Cemetery, she leaned forward and softly said, "This is where I belong." Ralph looked around. No houses, no lights, just the stone walls and wrought iron of the cemetery. He turned to ask if she was sure, but the seat was empty. She was gone. The door hadn't opened. No sound. Nothing. In that moment, Ralph froze, a cold chill running up his arms. It wasn't just confusion. It was fear. Real, bone-deep fear. Later that week, Ralph mentioned it at a bar across from the cemetery, Chet's Melody Lounge. Someone just nodded and said, "Sounds like you met Resurrection Mary." They told him he wasn't the first. That night the fear faded, but something heavier remained, a quiet, aching sadness for a girl who never got to live the life she dreamed of. Ralph's encounter is just one of dozens. Since the 1930s, people driving Archer Avenue between the Willowbrook Ballroom and Resurrection Cemetery have reported picking up a young woman in a white dress. Light blonde hair, quiet, polite, sometimes wearing a shawl, sometimes holding a clutch purse. She always asks to be dropped near the cemetery and then vanishes. The story behind her is tragic. They say her name was Mary. One night, she went dancing with her boyfriend at the O. Henry Ballroom, now the Willowbrook Ballroom. They fought. She left alone, walking up Archer Avenue. Not far from the ballroom, she was hit by a car, a hit and run. The driver was never found. Her parents buried her in Resurrection Cemetery, in that same white dancing dress. That's when the sightings began. Mary seen at the side of the road, Mary dancing in empty halls, Mary vanishing through locked gates. Some even claim her handprints burned into the iron bars of the cemetery fence, though officials say it was just truck damage. In 1939, a man named Jerry Pallas said he danced with her at Liberty Grove and Hall, said she felt real, warm, even kissed him. But when he drove her home, she vanished right in front of the cemetery gates. In the 70s, a cabbie came into a bar asking about a girl who skipped the fare. He dropped her off right where Ralph did. Other drivers over the years report nearly hitting a young woman crossing the road, only to realize there was no one there. Some believe she's reliving the night she died. Others say she's searching, maybe for the driver who ended her life, or maybe she's just chasing the memories she never got to make. The dance, the love, the life cut short. One thing is certain. Everyone who's seen her says the same thing. She doesn't want to scare you. She just wants to go home. So if you ever find yourself driving down Archer Avenue on a quiet night and you see a young woman in a white dress asking for a ride, be kind. You might be giving a ride to Resurrection Mary. Resurrection Mary is one of Chicago's oldest and most persistent ghost stories, with real people still reporting encounters to this day. Have you seen her? Let us know in the comments.